Hello everyone, I'm Cathy, and this year I graduated from college. I was always a good student and graduated with honors. I even got a huge scholarship for my academic excellence. You might think I'm a nerd, but people who study come in all shapes and sizes. Way back, my dad owned a pastry shop. At first, he bought buns and cakes and delivered them to the shops, adding his own pastries for his clients. Then he got more and more clients and had to hire an assistant. Then his small business began to grow. And Dad bought a space where he could manufacture our products to scale. I remember the times when my dad came home happy and told us about how another store or supermarket had agreed to supply his candy. So many years passed and our business has gained more popularity. One of my dad's friends, Uncle Stefan, offered to franchise Dad's business, and he said he wanted to be a partner. Dad liked this idea, and soon we opened a second branch downtown. Our shop was famous for the cool design and insanely delicious pastries. Uncle Stefan spent almost every day at our house. Him and my dad discussed new projects, menus, talked about the wholesale purchases. Since I was a kid, I treated him like my own uncle. And guess what? It's that very same trust that he got us cheated. A year had passed since the opening of the shop. By that time, I had just finished college and was looking for a job. My dad said I should temporarily work at his pastry shop until I found a new job. I gladly agreed. That job would allow me to improve my accounting skills. And my boss would be Uncle Stefan, which is perfect since I know he would help me. When I started, I immediately got to work with financial statements. Several hours passed, and I was shocked to realize that the reports that were given to my dad versus the ones that were sorted on the computer are very different. While I was checking the numbers, Uncle Stefan came in and was clearly not happy with me working there. He asked me what I was doing and why I was sitting at the accountant's chair. I told him I will now manage all the expenses and income myself, and that I'd even agreed to work for free. Instead of being happy with this, Uncle Stefan's face looked anxious. It was clear he did not like this. After a while, I realized why. Uncle Stefan was stealing from Dad. He lowered the official store income, and he took the differences for himself. I didn't expect such betrayal from such a close friend of Dad's. Angry, I immediately went to my dad, where I told him about what Uncle Stefan was doing. Dad heard all this and was furious. At first, he did not really believe me, saying that maybe I had not been accurate or missed something. But when he saw the reports, Dad was distraught, unable to digest what such a close friend had done. My father called Uncle Stefan on the phone and they had a terrible fight. Uncle Stefan refused to admit what he did and even insulted my accounting, telling Dad that I'm an inexperienced fool and it's because of me that I'm making an honest man look like a crook. Dad told me to go to the office immediately and get the computer so that no one could change or delete anything. I immediately drove to the office space, terribly worried and feeling that this business could end so easily. Arriving at the second branch, I was going up to where the accounting computer was and had almost reached it when I heard voices coming from my office. Uncle Stefan spoke to someone in a half-whisper, and in the corner, I noticed the old accountant. Delete everything, just erase it. Let's just say we can't find the reports. Better yet, we could write new ones. Do it, what am I paying you for? Make new ones so that the donkey thinks it's his daughter's fault. I realized in horror that they wanted to set me up. Quickly, pulling out my phone, I started recording what they were saying. We need to get out of this business. Let's put something in the pastries or whatever. Let's make him lose clients, his reputation, close his shops. And right at this time, we'll open our own pastry shops. We need to act first thing tomorrow morning. I quietly left the corridor and with horror realized what a cunning plan Uncle Stefan had prepared. But I had the recordings and I can give them to the police. But damn it, there isn't enough evidence. These are just conversations and they could just dismiss it. I need to act differently, to catch them, red-handed. I went home, deciding not to tell anyone anything, and gave myself one day to come up with a solution. All night, I thought about what to do, and finally came up with a plan. If they really want to ruin the product, fine, let them. Having made my way to work, as usual, I entered the shop, hiding behind the cabinets. I set up a small camera on top of the shelves and waited. Time passed, and the pastry chefs were the first to come. They changed, began wiping the tables, and began to spread the dough. At this time, a former accountant came in and handed them a bag of powder, saying that this is a new taste brought from India and that management had approved it. The pastry chef shrugged his shoulders, added the powder to the flour, and continued the business. While the satisfied accountant happily went to report everything to Uncle Stefan, I immediately went to the cooks and told them to bake only 2 buns and put the remaining dough aside. While the buns were ripe in the oven, I called the police. The evidence was all there, and now the time for reckoning had come. As soon as the police arrived to the building, I escorted them to the boss's office. The accountant was there too. Seeing us at the door, they made a surprised expression and asked the police what the issue was. Mr. Stephen Miller, allegedly, you have committed embezzlement, tax fraud, and had intent of sabotage and endangering the public by adding your poison flour to this establishment's products. Is this true? Uncle Stephen grinned and said through laughter, "Do you really believe this little liar or a reputable businessman? This is baloney. The girl just wants to take my place and run this business with her father." This angered me more. I have recordings, photo and video evidence of how your accountant asked to add poison to the product. Mr. Stephen laughed and said that the tape was probably faked and the video edited, and the powder was just a food supplement. Okay, since everything is fake, then please try the buns with your food supplement. The men looked at each other. Mr. Stephen said that he does not eat starchy foods and that the accountant is allergic to sweets. The policeman, realizing that something was wrong, quietly pushed the plate towards the men and gestured to try. Mr. Stephen and his accomplice reluctantly took the buns and, barely taking a bite, grabbed their bellies, turned blue, then green, and squealed in pain. It then became obvious. The police grabbed and arrested them, taking the uneaten buns as evidence. I told my father about what I did, and after a couple of hours, we had all the evidence needed for them to go to jail. Now, Uncle Stephen, or Mr. Miller as I like to call him now, faces a serious time. Now, Dad trusted me with the second branch and is very happy with my management, because now he's got someone in the company he really trusts. If you liked the video, then please leave a like and remember to subscribe. Hello everyone, my name is Muna. I'm a high schooler and it's almost graduation, and I have tons of plans for the future, but there's just one thing. I need money for it. And it's not like I can ask my parents for it because they aren't rich. They can barely afford my potential college tuition. So I decided to get a job. I mean, I think it's a pretty good idea, because legally, minors can work half a workday, and as long as it doesn't affect school attendance, it's fine. As I went to a job center, I dreamed I'd become some kind of assistant to a CEO of a major company. I pictured myself in a clean office, sipping on some sophisticated imported coffee, with the CEO taking me all over the world, earning a ton of money in the process. However, as I entered the center, I was massively let down. I was offered to sort mail at a meat processing plant. Huh? What the hell? How the heck am I supposed to tell my friends I work at a meat factory? I'd be made fun of forever. To make matters worse, there aren't any other jobs available for minors, but they said they'd let me know if there was new vacancies. I wasn't happy, but thought, how bad could it be? Plus, the pay wasn't bad. So I took the job and headed to the plant. Meat processing is the biggest industry in this town, and almost everyone works there. Apparently, many see it as a place for a good, stable income. I always hated coming near this place because I knew animals were slaughtered here. I remember as a kid seeing how the pretty cows were taken on their big trucks and never returned. And as I got older, I realized that sausages and other meat products were actually made in here. This freaked me out, and I vowed to never eat meat again. But unfortunately, I ended up here for real. I hated myself for agreeing to work here, but I desperately needed the money to leave this city and this job. I was surprised to realize that this place was actually very clean, and the people were nice. I got registered on the system and was given my office. Basically, there were a bunch of letters and documents, and my job was to sort everything in the right boxes and deliver them to their recipients. In short, I was basically the local postman. It wasn't very difficult, and sometimes I even enjoyed it. I never went beyond my office, and even started to get attached to it. I was glad I didn't need to go near the cows, and all I was surrounded by were computers and people in suits. There was a whole bunch of mail that day, almost an unbearable amount. It took ages for me to sort through it, but suddenly stumbled upon an absolutely terrible letter. On the front of it was written, "To the CEO of the slaughterhouse, Mr. Joy." Oh no! I have to go to the slaughterhouse where the cows are! I could have never imagined having to go to that place. How horribly unlucky! Maybe I should just throw the letter away and say that it got lost. What do you think? What would you do? While I was panicked, my phone rang, and guess who it was? It was Mr. Joy. He asked me about the letter I just got and said he wanted me to deliver it right away. I said I'd bring it over. He noted that I'll need to be wearing a special hygiene suit. I didn't know what he was talking about, Or did I? And then I remembered I was given a package when I started. So I reluctantly put it on and left my office. Even though it was only a 10-minute walk, it felt like ages. I dreaded going there, because even the thought of that place disgusted me. As I walked nearer, I saw cows being driven in trucks, like I saw when I was little, which made me so upset that I burst into tears. Now I had felt like I was involved in this whole thing. In the work area, I found Mr. Joy and gave him the letter. He was quite happy I delivered it to him and said that I didn't look like I had much to do, so offered me some tea in his break room. I thought to myself, I'm upset anyway. Maybe some tea will help. He poured me some tea and left me alone. I was still upset and just drank the tea and cried. After calming down a bit, I made myself comfortable on the break room couch and fell asleep. Suddenly, I woke up after hearing loud noises, glanced at the clock. It was midnight! Oh my God! They left me at the slaughterhouse! Damn it, I was supposed to go to a pajama party today, so my parents wouldn't be looking for me, but they will start realizing I'm not at Becky's house. I realized I had to get out of there. I heard a scary distant scream. Who could possibly be here at midnight? But then realized I need people to help me get out of here. Because honestly, I don't remember the way out. Leaving the room, I went down the corridor, closer to the voice. I entered the large workspace area, and what I saw there shocked me to my core. Mr. Joy was on his knees in the middle of the room. He was tied up and strange people demanded money from him. Mr. Joy assured them that he did not do anything and that he didn't have the money. They were berating him, but he stood his ground. Then one of the bandits pressed a button and a wire with hooks on it appeared. Cow carcasses were usually hung up on them, with deadly saws at the end to prepare to divide them. But instead of cows, a woman hung on one of the hooks. When Mr. Joy saw her, he screamed. She cried and asked him to give them what they wanted. It was Mr. Joy's wife. He was devastated. I stood in shock, unable to move. The wire was getting closer and closer to the saws, and then it hit me. What the hell am I doing? I began to plan what to do, looked around, and saw an electrical panel. Bingo! I ran to the dashboard and turned off the electricity in the shop. The wire stopped moving. A bandit shouted, "Who's there? Find them and bring them to me." I ran and hid in some room, then started dialing 911. And just when the dispatcher picked up, a bandit grabbed me by the leg and pulled me from under the table. I shouted to let me go, and I don't want to die in this slaughterhouse like a cow. The phone remained under the table, and I didn't know whether or not the operator could understand me. I was brought to the main slaughterhouse. They tied my hands and hugged me on the wire next to Mr. Joy and his wife. They asked me who I was. Mr. Joy begged them to let me go because I had nothing to do with it. But their main bandit said that I had seen too much and he can't let me live. He made a sick joke that tomorrow the sausages will be particularly tasty. I felt ill and nauseous. My head started spinning. Only thing I saw were the terrifying saws in front of me. The wire began to move again. Mr. Joy screamed. The woman started crying, but suddenly the tape stopped. Everyone froze. "Move her first. Let's start with her, so that he has more time to think," said the main bandit, pointing at me. That's it. I have no chance of escape. I didn't even cry. My fear left me. I lost all hope and simply accepted my fate as I couldn't do anything. I didn't even resist when they moved me. I just stared into space. When my eyes met with Mr. Joy's, he told me, "Thanks," with his lips alone, not a sound. But I could get what he meant. I just smiled at him hopelessly. I didn't even know what he did, but I knew that I was about to die because of him. They tied me up, and the wire started moving again. I stared at the saws, which were getting closer to me. Their buzzing was much louder than any crying or screaming. I closed my eyes and started saying goodbye to my loved ones, to my dream, and accepted that I shouldn't even be mad at these people and just gave up. The saws crept closer. With my eyes closed, I plunged into darkness. And suddenly, I felt like I was just hanging. I'm really hanging. The wire stopped, and I opened my eyes. I saw saws right in front of me. Another few seconds, and I'd be a goner. My hands were really numb, ears were ringing, and I couldn't properly register what just happened. Maybe the bandits just decided to taunt us, and now they will turn it on for good. Or maybe my 911 call was understood. I tried to see what was below, but I could not. Everything was spinning. I was terribly disoriented. I only saw saws, and it was terrifying. Suddenly, the wire went off again. I closed my eyes and screamed. I screamed so loudly that I did not realize that I was actually going in the other direction. I was moving away from the saws. When I opened my eyes, I saw 2 policemen helping me get off the hook. They took me off and gave me to the medics. The rest I don't remember out of shock. Time had passed, and I had huge news. Today, the chief of police will reward me for my courage. When I left the hospital, I found out that I had become locally famous. Apparently, Mr. Joy was doing dirty business in his meat processing plant and owed the mafia a lot of money. Him and his family is now in witness protection, and the mafia can't get to them. And because of my inspiring story, my whole family decided to become vegan. So after the award ceremony, I've got a vegan picnic and party waiting for me. Also, you want to know something? Now I know exactly who I want to be. And luckily, the police chief wrote some good recommendations for me. And I just submitted my application to the police academy. So I'm doing just fine. And if you liked the video, then leave a like and don't forget to subscribe.